Good evening, everybody. It's really nice to be here. Even though Bunyap and David are piling on the pressure, my guess is the bento box was probably a bigger draw than I was. But I'll try not to let you down. Look, I'm only going to speak for about 10 minutes because I'm really looking forward to the questions that you have. That will be maybe a little more meaningful way to spend our time answering what's on your mind. But let me start by saying what I'm not going to tell you tonight. I'm not going to tell you how to get rich quick. If I knew how to do that, I probably wouldn't be here. Building wealth is something that happens over time, and frankly, it takes a lot of discipline, and you have to know yourself pretty well. So I'm going to just give you 3 or 4 things that I share regularly, and it's with my own children, and frankly, it's with clients who are very, very much deeper into their lives than you are. And then we'll go from there with some questions. The first thing is probably the best advice anybody ever gave me in my life is how to live. He said 2 things that really matter in life. Marry well and live below your means. You think, okay, well, there's no insight into that. But if you reflect upon it for a moment, there's a lot of truth in it. David was referring to his wife. I will see if he says to his wife tonight what he told you. But part of this is marrying well. You have to know what kind of life you want. Are you going to be married? Are you going to have children? Do you have parents that are going to need your support? The sense is if you're going to take control of your lives, you need to know how to do that. Part of what we're going to talk about with investing this evening is how do you get control of your life and keep it. But you also have to have some sense of what kind of life do you want? What kind of life do you want to lead? And that's where you start. That leads to the second question, live below your means. Do you know what they are? Now, part of your journey is about to take a big turn as you pick the next job. For some of you, it'll be the first job ever. There's a temptation to go get the job that pays the most. And I understand that. You want to build some wealth. You want to pay off some debt. Perfectly understandable. But somewhere inside of you is the true passion, the person that you want to be. I see it in the bank all the time. People come to banking because they heard that we pay more than everybody else. Well, we pay pretty well, but we're a high-stress, very demanding industry, and some people just hate what they do. You can tell it. They hate it. They don't want to be a banker, but they want the money. And even when they get the money, they can't really tell you why they want the money. They just want the money. Remember, even if you take a job early in your career because you need to make some money and build some wealth, somewhere in there when you control your life, you got to remember what your true passion is and make sure that you're building that wealth through investment and savings to give you the freedom to go be what you want to be. Some of you want to be a banker. Some of you want to be a chef. Some of you want to be an actor. Some of you want to start your own business. You need the means to do that. So live well, marry well, live below your means. Means you got to know what kind of life you want, have some sense, and you need to know how much money you actually have and how you can build that wealth to begin with. The second thing I say all the time, I mentioned Warren Buffett said it, so I can't take credit. He says, every month pay yourself first. The biggest mistake people make is they spend money on everything they think they need to spend money on, and then they realize, there's nothing left at the end of the month. And that's the mistake. David was just talking about $165 a month. If that's your goal, that's the first thing you do. You pay yourself. Take out of your means the money that helps you build your nest egg. Now, I'll tell you, we have 3 daughters and a son. Our son is still in university. He's in engineering school. Our 3 daughters, when they graduated from university, we gave them a gift that disappointed them, but only now. We gave them a retirement account, and my daughters were really angry. They said, you did what? You put that much money into a retirement account that I can't touch till I'm 65? Do you know what I could do with that money right now? And we said to them, we know exactly what you would do with that money right now. That's why we're not going to give it to you. Okay? But putting that money into a retirement account when they're 22 years old, it's exactly what you start early. Now, maybe you don't have the means or maybe you don't have the parents to do that, but our insight is we learned the hard way. The later you start, the tougher it gets. The earlier you start, the sooner you have total control of your life because you have the means to, frankly, do anything you want. So investing well and having discipline around your savings today, from the very first day, is a path to freedom in your life to do anything you want when you want to. I'm 57 years old and I'm about to retire after 30 years of banking. I'm exhausted, by the way, but I just want to go do something else. And I can, because for 30 years I've been very disciplined, I've lived well within my means, and I've learned how to invest. Now that gets to the last point or two that I'm going to share with you today. There is no, my wife will say this to me all the time. She says, I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know. I don't understand taxes. I don't understand the stock market. I don't understand insurance. Well, there's no magic way. There's no shortcut to understanding it. What I would encourage you to do next about taking control of your financial life is that you have to learn this stuff, and you learn this just like you learn any other subject, whether it's physics or mathematics or English literature. To understand the credit card, you have to sit with somebody and say, tell me how this thing works. How does the compound interest? How much do they charge you? Now, please understand, in a credit card, they charge you 12%. Because it's unsecured personal debt, we're taking a bet on you, and the track record over time is not everybody pays back their credit card. So you have to pay a really high rate because some other guy didn't understand what he was taking on and he got it wrong and didn't pay us back. Meanwhile, a mortgage costs about 1%, 2% because there's security behind it. You need to understand this. You need to understand the downside of borrowing. Now, a credit card has two purposes, ladies and gentlemen. Who's got a credit card? You guys got credit cards? Seriously, put your hands up. I don't believe you. Right? You got a credit card. It does two things. It's a means of payment. It lets the merchant know you're good for the money. Give me that pizza. Here's my credit card. It's also a source of personal finance. If you don't pay off the credit card, you're borrowing the money. It's probably the single most expensive form of debt you can find. Now, I'm the guy, we got the biggest credit card company in the country. Understand what you're taking on. It's a means of payment. It's a source of finance. It's a very expensive source of finance. It's a product that you need to understand. Investing. It doesn't get easier. David will tell you this. Investors suffer. The first time you've built up over the years and you've saved and you put it into the stock market, and then the stock market falls 20%. Because it happens over and over again. That's why we call it a cycle. In that moment, you will be nauseous. In that moment, you'll want to throw up. You said, I saved all this money. What happened? It's about your time horizon. And this is the last thing I want you to understand before we sit down and take some questions. You need to know what you're saving for and when you need the money. Are you saving for retirement? It's 40 years away. Are you saving for the education of your children? Depends on which part of the education, but that's 5 years, 10, 20 years away. Are you saving to buy a house, buy an apartment? That happens as soon as you have the money. You need to have some sense of what's the time horizon, and you need to have some sense of how much risk tolerance you have. Because trust me, ladies and gentlemen, if you invest in the stock market and the stock market has a bad day, you're going to have a bad day. But over time, stocks have been a better investment than any other asset class around the world for about the last 100 years. Buying a house, people will say real estate only goes up. It's not true. Real estate goes down too. So, you have to understand how much risk tolerance you have and what's your time horizon. Let me summarize these basic points for you before we sit down with questions. Learning to invest is a path to freedom. Learning to invest lets you take total control of your life. You can basically do anything you want to if you have enough wealth to underpin your lifestyle. If you squander it all now and spend every penny you have, plus every penny you can borrow, you will be in a hole so deep that by the time you're 30-something, you're going to be way, way, way behind your peers. You got to start now with discipline to save some money every month. Put it in the bank, buy bonds, buy stocks, whatever you think, and get advice. When you invest, it's step by step, learning how to do it. Take small steps. Don't bet anything you can't live without. Don't invest money you need soon. But you have to save money, build up that money, and start making decisions about where you're going to invest it. 2, you have to have a very clear sense of what kind of life you want. Not with precision and total clarity, but are you going to be married? Do you want children? Where do you want to live? You need some sense of what you're saving for. And then you need to empower yourself. And the number one thing about money sense that helps us all is you take control of your life by understanding what that credit card can do for you and can do to you. What insurance can do for you and can do to you. What investing in mutual funds and stocks has a lot of upside, but it's a long time horizon. So educate yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Investing is just like any other subject. You have to apply yourself to it. You have to find somebody. You have to find your finance professor, your personal investment professor. Might be your father, might be somebody else, might be your friend, but have to demystify all of these things. These are very broad, basic statements, but that's it. Investing and learning to invest gives you freedom in your life. Last thing, and then we'll stop. You guys in your 20s. Is anybody in this room, in the students, older than 25? Okay, I'm 57. You're going to live to 100. Whether you believe it or not, you're going to live to 100. In 1935, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt got Congress to approve the Social Security Act, which for the Americans is not unlike your CPF. We began to pay people when they were 65 years old. Do you know why he picked 65? Because the average life expectancy in the United States at that time was 67. The point of Social Security was to make sure that people didn't die alone in poverty. He did it at the time of the Great Depression. It was never meant to be a retirement program. It was meant to help people in the last moments of their lives when they didn't have any other place to turn. Today, average life expectancy in the United States is 88. But we still let you take the money from Social Security at 65, 62 if you're smart and you know how the system works. You guys are going to live to 100. So you need to think about that. How long do you want to work? How much money do you need? What kind of life do you want? You're 20. You got 80 years to go. You're going to have at least 2 careers, maybe 4. So get off to a good start and either follow your passion now and build wealth later, or build some wealth now to buy yourself some freedom to follow your passion at some other point. But remember, it's a long life. It takes discipline. There's no magic. And I encourage you to start saving now. The best thing is ask your mother and father to give you a retirement account like I did for my kids, and you'll be off to a good start. And that's where I'm going to stop my comments. It really is. There's no magic, but let's answer your questions. I look out at you and I will say this. You guys won the lottery. To be born in Singapore at this moment, to be attending NUS at this moment, you are some of the luckiest people on earth. You're the cognitive elite at a time when cognitive capacity is what the world is paying for. You are in one of the great centers of the world for healthcare, for finance, for education, for innovation. And you're young, you're healthy, you're smart, and you're in the right place in the right moment. So don't blow it. There's a lot of people who wish they were you, and you've gotten off to a great start. Thank you for your attention. God bless you all. And I'm looking forward to hard questions. Issuers, there are just fewer stocks to buy and sell, fewer people investing in them. And when there's less liquidity, less depth, it's a little harder to get prices sometimes. They'll mature over time as wealth grows here in Asia, but I would say that's the key difference. Europe and North America, much deeper, more mature markets with governance rules around them that's emerging in Asia. But it's about the depth. If you look at the volatility in China, that's been a market that's swung up and down a lot. They changed some rules about allowing you to do margin lending. So usually if you wanted to buy $100 worth of stock, you needed $100. Well, if you can lever 10 to 1, suddenly $100 lets you buy $1,000 worth of stock. And there was a lot more money that came in all at once. These are all maturing over time, but I would say that's basically it. The question of asset allocation over time, more equities when you're young, more bonds when you're old, it's a time-honored strategy that works. There's plenty of data that can go back at least 100 years that would say, over time, investing in equities is the asset class that will pay you the most return on whatever money you put in, but they're also far and away the most volatile. So it's a matter of which day you buy and which day you sell, how much you get. I go back to the sage Warren Buffett. They asked him one day, when did you make your first investment? He said, I was 11 years old. I bought my first share when I was 11, and I regretted that I waited so long. The earlier start. And what's he worth now? Is $54 billion? 11 years old, he bought a share. He didn't buy ice cream. He decided, I'm going to forego the ice cream cone. I'm going to buy a share in AT&T. Now he's got $54 billion. He can buy as many ice cream cones as he wants.
Do we have any other questions? You raise your hand. Raise it up
way in the
high.
back. Way in the back.
Okay. Where's the hand? Can you? Way in the
On
back.
a white
Oh,
shirt.
there we go.
Yeah.
Yes, I see you. Yeah. Right up at the back, Alan. This is a large room. We have about 490 people in this room, probably, or 460.
Hi, my name is Kyung Jen. I'm from business. So in Singapore's case, if you look, ideally, I like to invest in the STI and index. But
Yep.
throughout the last 5 years, it's been down.
Yes.
I look at fixed deposits, it's peanuts. Where would you invest, and where would you advise to invest, say, for a typical Singaporean like us over here?
Oh, I see. Now he's asking for investment advice. I have to give the disclosure that prior performance is no predictor of... Yes, I know MES is here. Yes. Bunyap is watching my every move. I tell you to buy Citigroup shares. No. Look. Let's talk about the grand sweep of history for a moment, in economic history. China's the second largest economy in the world today, right? When I joined the bank in 1988, any of you guys born after 1988? Tell me the truth. Who was born after 1988? Okay, you all have to leave now. Right? Okay, I joined before you guys were born. It was a different world. The Soviet Union still existed. We had a Cold War. It was a different place, right? Nobody was talking about China. Today, China and India have restored to what we would call, folks here would say, this is back to normal. The last 200 years have been the aberration. For all of economic history for 2,000 years before that, China and India were the two biggest economies in the world. Asia was the biggest economy in the world, 60% of global economy. It's kind of back to that. The wheel turned on us. So the question is, can you access that growth, that economic growth, through stocks here? I'm not going to tell you what to buy. I'm going to tell you where to look. All right? Where can you capture the economic growth that translates into earnings for a company? Because that's what you're buying. When you buy a stock, you're buying a stream of earnings from that company, or the promise of a stream of earnings going into the future. That's how we price the stock today. Our best guess of what that stock's going to be worth based on its performance over time. Can you get it through global companies like mine that invest in all those places, very deep, large cap stocks, but they're also exposed to all the ups and downs? Can you actually get exposure to the China growth story on the Chinese stock exchange? Well, that's been breathtakingly volatile in recent years. I think that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a broad index, much broader than just one country. Singapore's depth, like we were talking about, depth and liquidity, is a pretty narrow market when you think about the whole world economy. You're looking for a place that you can buy the world growth story. Now, again, U.S. indexes are pretty good, but there's plenty of international stocks that say, I'm going to buy for you a collection of stocks from like the G20 countries, a little bit of Brazil, a little bit of Turkey, a little bit of Europe, a little bit of China. There are indexed funds like that. So if that's what you want to buy into the world's growth story and you have a lot of time, there's a fund manager who built that fund for you. But it sounds to me like you need something broader than one country's stock. Singapore's market, it's a good investment, but it's a narrow market. I'm not going to tell you what to buy. No way. Because you'll call me back in a year and say, hey, this went down.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Raise your hands high so we can see you.
There's one right there.
Oh, Michael, your eyesight's very good. I
No,
think
that's all
I
I
need
have
new
to do is
glasses.
watch
There
for
we
this
go. There we
areas,
go. Okay,
yeah.
I see 2 hands now. Is it? Is that Mike? Can you keep your hands up?
And there's one
There
there,
we go.
and there's one there. Now we got 3. Okay.
We've got 3 hands. Okay.
Now people are getting they're feeling.
There we
We've
go.
got momentum here. This is good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zink. I'd like to ask about getting the sell decision correct, because
Yes.
a lot of times we end up with the very bad stocks in our portfolio while selling our best performance shares. So what are some tips to minimize this trap?
Don't be emotional. Okay? We learn from the traders. If you go into our dealing room, our headquarters is in Asia Square, and it's Citi's second largest dealing room in the world. So we're dealing stocks, currencies, commodities, interest rates. And traders will tell you your first loss is your best loss. You cannot get emotional about a position. You cannot get emotional about a stock. I'm emotional about Citigroup stock. I watched it go up and down about 5 times. And my wife always laughs at me because I will never sell it. And it's a mistake. It's a mistake. You have to have some sense of when it's time to sell. A house, a stock, a bond, gold, you name it. And we're often far too emotional. And a stock will fall and you say, oh, but I like those guys. I'm going to wait. Don't do it. You've got to make some very clear-eyed decisions about if you buy at 20 and you tell yourself, if it gets to 25, I'm going to sell. If it gets to 25, sell it. What usually happens is it gets to 25, you say, well, anything that goes into 25 can go to 30, and then it ends up back at 20, right? It's time horizon, what you need the money for, and did you get new information that says you're just in the wrong investment? Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you just get it wrong. You just get it wrong. Somebody told you the gold was going to rise and it fell. Sell it and put your money into something else. If you're in a losing position, you have to ask yourself the simple question, is staying in that position still the best investment today? If you had fresh money and you weren't already in that stock, would you buy it now? If you would, leave the money alone. If you're in a stock and it fell and you say, oh my goodness, I'm just going to wait for it to come back, you might watch that index fund we were talking about up there zoom up 20%. So I would say about investing, it is not emotional. When you get emotional, you make mistakes. When you talk yourself into things, you make mistakes. Be very clear-eyed about when to sell. One of my big mistakes, I never sell Citigroup stock. I'm a knucklehead. You make some money, sell it. My friend told me, never feel bad about paying profit tax because that means you had profit.
That's very good. You don't get emotional. Very good advice to take home. But when Michael said go and sell gold, he was not offering investment advice. He was just saying it hypothetically. Okay?
Hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
Gold goes up and gold goes down.
There we go. Any other questions? One more. I think we have one more question.
There were 2 over here.
Or 2? Okay.
We can take them both.
Let's do it quickly because we are running out of time.
Yes?
With the advent of computers, the trading decisions has been made by algorithms more than people. So in 5-10 years down the line, how do you see the trading room will change with computers, more and more computers doing the trading decisions? So how do you visualize the trading room to be in 5 years, 10 years down the line?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of that.
Can you say it slowly again?
Sure. With the advent of computers, the trading decisions have been made by algorithms more than people. So as algorithmic trading has been catching up for quite some time. So
Yes.
in 5 years, 10 years down the line, how do you see an trading room will be? Will it be taken over by computers because they are more logical, they don't suffer emotions?
Yes.
So all these aspects, how do you see it in 10 years down the line?
Well, it's a very good question. It's an interesting question. computers aren't emotional, but computers aren't very smart. Computers can only count to 1, right? Zeros and ones. All the code is zeros, and computers can only count to 1. Computers do what we tell them to do. We write the algorithms. And the algorithms that people write are based on our assumptions and our biases. Sometimes our biases are unconscious. Okay? So that trading program is going to do exactly what you tell it to do. The difference between computers and humans are very emotional, but they can also recognize that, wait a minute, my assumptions were flawed, and they can change their position. If you tell a computer to sell at this point and buy at this point, it'll do it all day long. But it won't adjust and it won't adapt. It doesn't learn. So it can do some basic stuff well, and the speed at which we trade truly has accelerated to a point that it's a little bit frightening. You may or may not know, the world trades about $5 trillion of foreign exchange every day. $5.4 trillion. It has absolutely no link to the amount of goods and services bought and sold in a day. Most of it's trading back and forth at breathtaking speeds. You turn those computers on, they'll trade all afternoon. Will they replace humans? Absolutely not, because trading's about judgment, the algorithm's based on our assumptions, and computers can't adjust.
I think there was something that came up at the IMAS function yesterday as well about robo-advisors and fintech and all that. While they think these are going to be essential and necessary tools, it won't exactly replace the human element. At least I saw that in the media today at the IMAS conference was discussed. The other thing is, for those of you who are interested in algorithmic trading, the high-frequency trading and all that computerized trading, I do suggest before you do that, read this book, Flash Boys, by Michael Lewis. Very interesting book about the history and about the background behind it. Flash Boys by Michael Lewis, and very entertaining as well. That would be a good way to actually probably thank Michael for his time here. And let's give a round of applause to Michael.
Thank you very much.